So why don't you take a minute, I know who you are, and just introduce yourself for the people watching this video.
Ryan Dougherty with GeoExchange. We're a nonprofit trade association promoting geothermal heating and cooling technology throughout North America. Very policy-oriented organization. Work closely with stakeholders on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. We're a sister organization of IGSPA, the International Ground Source Heat Pump Association, which is really the workforce training standards arm of the industry, whereas we focus on public policy and advocacy.
Okay, so I'm a member of IGSPA. I'm an IGSPA Canada trainer. I work with their technical committees, great organization.
I love that about you.
So I know a lot about IGSPA, but I don't know a lot about what you guys do. So how about you could just sort of outline, what do you think is the most important role that you play? Like IGSPA handles sort of in the street, in the trenches. What's the most important thing that you see that your role is?
Well, I'm a policy guy from way back. I worked in state government for a long time, and I see how policy can affect people's lives and drive markets. And it's through public policy that tides rise and fall.
Right.
And if you're able to convince stakeholders, particularly elected officials, as well as utility regulators, utility executives, about a technology that they may not be familiar with.
Right.
And when they start to comprehend it, if you've ever taken an elected official to a geothermal project site, you can literally see the light bulb go off over their head. And they see the building owner, they see the driller, they see the contracting installer. They start to realize, wow, this is how it works, and this is what it does for the building owner, for the occupants, for the electric grid, for the climate and environment. They become a lifelong champion.
Right.
And when you start to build out enough of those champions, you can change the law, you can change regulation to properly incentivize what is the best heating and cooling technology.
Yeah, it's interesting. It resonates with me because yesterday I was talking with John Thomas, who I think is sitting behind us, and sharing some of the things that the industry is trying to do. And what you're doing is sort of like what the guys are doing, the guys and gals that are installing heat pumps, right? They're installing heat pumps because they know the nuances of I need this piece, I need that piece. They understand that the homeowner can become their greatest advocate. That's the neat part about a ground source heat pump. You put one into somebody's home, and all of a sudden they're advocating to their neighbors of like, this is a great technology. So what you do, it sounds like, is the exact same thing, but you're just speaking to a slightly different audience. You're talking to the lawmakers, the policymakers, to help them better understand why this technology is a fit.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, geothermal cuts across political boundaries. That's what I love about my job.
Yeah.
Is that we're not a technology that is polarizing or divisive in any way.
Yeah.
We Republicans and Democrats in the states really love us.
And
equally.
Canadians.
And even the Canadians love us. Yeah, I mean, even in Ottawa, geothermal is a great uniter. You might have to modulate your talking points a little bit,
Right.
Sort of tamp down on something and lift something else up, but the benefits of geothermal are so wide-ranging.
Right.
It's just the best technology you can put in a building for heating and cooling and domestic hot water applications. So it's opening their eyes because, frankly, HVAC isn't sexy, but we're trying to make it sexy. I think we were talking earlier about how people are becoming more cognizant about where their electricity comes from, their choices, their energy choices within the building. In my view, that's a great thing for society, for people to think carefully about their sort of energy choices to make HVAC sexy, finally.
Yeah.
And once we're able to get into the dialogue and really help people understand who we are and what we do, and what the technology offers, that's when we win.
Yeah.
That's when we realize these gains from a public policy perspective, because governments are in the habit of picking winners and losers.
Right.
And whoever...
Which is terrible. We don't want them doing that.
It is, and we advocate for equal treatment.
Yeah.
But for so long, there are other technologies that have been favored because they're bigger, they have more money to lobby and advocate and communicate, and no knock on them. You gotta get your voice heard.
Right.
And that's something we've done really with a grassroots strategy. It's getting folks like you to collectively weigh in with decision makers to say, hey, we're all behind this, and you should listen to us because we have the best interests of our customers at heart. We're a small, scrappy organization that is has been able to accomplish things that have really shocked people.
Right.
And it's through persistence and just a winning message. The technology speaks for itself.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because if you look at the whole ground source industry over the last 20 years, a lot of people think it's new technology, and I think that's a bit of a bottleneck. And, over the last 20 years, if you look at companies like, Water Furnace and Climate Master and Enertech and NEBA themselves, a global company that's really laser focused, this is not a tiny industry. But when you compare that to some of the other industries that have been around for, very, very long time, it's a challenge. So I'd be curious to know, how do you find it is to drive a message around a technology? Because if we look at ground source heat pumps, if we take what could be perceived as bias, because I'm a huge ground source heat pump nerd, you're a heat pump nerd, the reality is there's a lot of independent studies from gas utilities, PhDs, various universities. A ground source heat pump is the most cost effective, the most comfortable, and from a utility standpoint, the best solution from a peak shaving attitude. But it's expensive, and we can't get around that, right? You look at the capital cost for a ground source heat pump, you're going to put that ground source heat pump in, yes, it's going to be a premium, but there's a lot of other things that come with that. It's going to last 2.5 times longer, it's going to have less service, you're not going to hear it, but that message doesn't seem to always make it to the people that are making decisions at the policy level. So is there something that nerds in the field, like me and others that are watching this video, like what can they do to contribute to that discussion? Sort of like talking at a trade show about, like, I'm a big fan of ground source, or I'm a big fan of hydronics, whatever they're fans of, how can they get engaged in the industry to make changes in policy?
Well, that's a big question, Michael. Let me see if I can bite it into some chunks here. First of all, you're right. The technology's been around for a very long time, and it was commercialized in the late 70s and really started advancing in the market in the 80s. That said, if you look at data that's available, it's around 1% of the overall HVAC market. And so you have to ask yourself, well, if it's been around so long, why hasn't it grown and thrived and proliferated? You hit the hammer or the nail on the head with upfront cost. People, unfortunately, especially when it comes to HVAC choices, they are cost sensitive.
Right.
Like when it comes to buying a car, they'll make all sorts of crazy decisions that don't fit their pocketbook or meet their financial needs. But for some reason, people don't do the life cycle cost analysis. And it used to be, when I got into this business over a decade ago, I used to hear this reflexive refrain from a lot of people who knew just a tiny bit about geothermal. Oh, it costs too much and it doesn't work. Well, I very rarely hear anybody say it doesn't work anymore.
Right.
People recognize that it is a great technology, the best for the built environment. Now they just say, well, it costs too much.
Right.
I was in Washington last week speaking with a congresswoman who said, oh yeah, a couple of my friends have it. They really love it. I'd like to get it. I can. It costs too much. Mm-hmm.
Well, you made a great point I want to touch on, and it has to do with the car example. I never thought of it until now. But Bruce Cole made a great comment that, if you look at your heating system, you're going to buy a heating system for your home statistically 1.7 times in the entire life. So let's say it's twice. So if we're going to only ever buy 2 heating systems in our entire life, but we're going to go out and buy how many cars? And we're going to put all this thought into cars. Like, I think I've owned 5 or 6 cars. And Bruce is right. I've really only owned 1 or 2 heating systems. We're willing to invest all of this time I want to make sure I have a fuel efficient car, I want a reliable car, I'm willing to pay a little bit more money to get all of these things, but we seem to have a disconnect on the heating system side sometimes, not all the time. 1% is not a huge percentage of the market, but that 1%, once they do it, they're not going back. They're like, I am never getting anything other than a geothermal system.
Yeah, and talk to somebody who's on delivered fuel oil in the Northeast U.S. or on some of the provinces. they want that thing out of their house. And so there are different motivations. I think one of the other things about HVAC is that it's replace on failure, right?
Yeah.
And so whatever's cheapest, fastest, quickest,
Yeah,
and easiest,
fastest
is gonna
drives everything.
get you that comfort
Yeah,
you need.
yeah.
So, but we were talking earlier about this changing conception and changing consciousness about the built environment, what goes into your home,
Yeah.
the energy choices you're making, and your HVAC
Yeah.
solution. HVAC is kind of rising in people's consciousness,
Yeah.
which is a great thing. And I think once you start to think proactively about what you're going to do, what kind of home you want to live in, that's when people arrive to and gravitate towards geothermal. There's a renewed focus on indoor air quality, especially coming out of the COVID pandemic.
Yeah.
And people are thinking more and more about combusting in their homes and what that means for their health and safety. So there are these trends, and I would say there's this global mega trend that is a really big deal here at the AHR Expo, which is building decarbonization.
Right.
So, you know, governments come and governments go, and they have different priorities and prerogatives. But I think building decarb is a trend that's not going away.
Yeah.
It's just this unstoppable, and it's going to take decades, right, to really take hold. But you look at heat pump sales; they're on the upswing. I think as more and more people are thinking about decarbonization, and policymakers, that's the other part of the puzzle, is if we're going to decarbonize heat, where are we going to get the electricity?
Right.
And we talked about higher upfront cost. I would say that we have not adequately reflected the benefit, the financial benefit of geothermal heating and cooling technology on an electric grid.
Right.
There's a great cost-benefit analysis and a value proposition for the building owner.
Yeah.
Let's sketch that out for the grid operator
Yep.
and the electric utility, or increasingly gas utilities.
Yep.
I mean, we're not too far from a day where there are going to be more and more gas utilities getting into the geo business, and it's understandable. They're already putting high-density polyethylene in rights of way,
Yep.
and providing utility service through that network. This is a perfect transition, or in some instances, build a business diversification play for them.
Right.
Same workers, same fusion techniques, same equipment, same digging and trenching. It's just going to carry water instead of gas. And so there's this growing interest. There are 28 gas utilities or dual fuel utilities, investor-owned utilities, between Canada and the United States, that are part of a utility network geothermal collaborative. And the UNGC represents these companies that are all on different parts of their journey. Eversource Energy, which is the largest investor-owned utility in the Northeast US, has actually got their geo district system up and running now. There are others in New York and Colorado that are not far behind. So they're not moving away from this. I mean, they're being driven by regulators, they're being driven by customers, and they're being driven by good business sense to do this.
I think the key statement from that, and it's really important, is why are utilities globally? Like, forget the United States, they're doing the same thing in Canada, doing the same thing in Europe. There's a reason that they're doing ground source heat pumps versus other technology. I'm somebody who has done the math and has looked at hundreds of live systems with the support of Will Lang. So we can actually tell a utility what it costs them for a ton of geothermal versus another heat pump technology. And I think the takeaway is, if the utilities are doing it, that's everything we need to hear as an end consumer. And I think that's where somebody like yourself, somebody who can speak to policymakers, can speak their language, which I definitely can't. I can maybe add little technical pieces to it.
Don't sell yourself short, Michael.
I think it's going to make a big difference, because I really think that it can make a big difference. But something that we talked about before, at the end of the day, we both understand that not every homeowner is going to have a ground source heat pump solution. I think what we want to make sure is that regardless, people get the right solution, right? So if the right solution for your home is a ground source heat pump, and for my home it's a hydronic heat pump, whether it's an air to water, or maybe it's a dual fuel system, that's okay. We just can't have people picking a horse. And I think we're on the same page on that.
100%.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Michael.
Appreciate it.